Senator Chandler.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to have a couple of questions up front regarding compliance with the ABC's editorial standards, so I suspect they might be best directed to Mr McMurtry. Is it correct that the ABC's editorial standards stipulate that you will make reasonable efforts to ensure that material facts are accurate and presented in context, and that you will not present factual content in a way that will materially mislead your audience? Great. Are you aware of a segment on Radio National Breakfast, a website of which is available online, it's still accessible, broadcast originally last Tuesday, 25th of February, which stipulates that more than 20% of Australian forests burned in bushfires analysis?
Senator, I'm afraid we publish thousands of stories. I can get you some information on that on notice. I couldn't give you the specifics of that.
That would be great. If you could also consider further on notice to that.
Could I get a copy of that, please?
I do have a copy of it here. That's
analysis that comes from the ABC to you.
I only have a copy of the article that's currently on the ABC's website.
It will come back to the committee. Senator Roberts.
No worries. If you could also take on notice then, it's my understanding that during the bushfires over the summer, approximately 10 million hectares of Australia's total landmass was burnt, and Australia has a total of 134 million hectares of native forests. So I do have concerns that that 20% of Australians' forests burnt in bushfires commentary is perhaps not entirely accurate. In fact, it is not accurate based on my basic maths on those numbers, and I would be interested to know in what way the editorial standards reflect or would be reflected within the context of those editorial standards. The next question I have is about ABC Life. How much does the ABC spend each year on the ABC Life website?
I can get you that on notice, Senator.
Could you tell me how many staff members are employed by ABC Life?
There's a group of staff that do work. It started off specifically working on ABC Life. I know that their work requirements include ABC Life and some other things, so I'll need to confirm that to you on that.
Would it be possible for you to roughly apportion out then how much time and resources is being spent on ABC Life versus other content?
I can do that on notice, but
of course.
But my rough estimate would be there was probably about 20 people, I think, that were in that group.
Great, 20 people. Fantastic.
Again, I'll confirm that on notice for you.
And was ABC Life recently reviewed?
We did look at the editorial content of ABC Life and how it related to audience and what audience was coming to ABC Life and how that was assisting new audience coming into the ABC. And as I, Senator, quickly flick to something that gives me that information, I want to say that I think ABC Life has 1.2 million people coming to it each month. And I think the majority of that audience is weighted towards women, and I think there is a large proportion that is younger.
Great.
But I will confirm that on notice for you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr Anderson. For those listening along at home, the ABC Life website is in effect a lifestyle blog. It has articles on it. I'm just looking at the coverage on it today. The 9 things to consider before dieting, 10 healthy lunchbox swaps, and getting your kids to eat them. When was that review undertaken into ABC Life, Mr Anderson?
I'm going to have to get back to you, Senator. It was last year sometime that was complete. Yes.
I'd also be interested to know, was that before or after the ABC decided that it wouldn't be broadcasting the Tokyo Olympics?
That would have been before. Before.
Right. I am just interested to understand, I suppose, that, obviously ABC Life, it's a lifestyle blog. There are other providers of that content elsewhere on the internet, and I understand, one of the concerns around not broadcasting the Olympics was that information would be available elsewhere as well. So just understanding the trade-off between looking at ABC Life, keeping that platform online and choosing not to broadcast the Olympics. I do have one last round of questions around the 50-50 project, Mr Anderson. So this is, you can probably explain it better than me, but it is the ABC sort of gender equity piece that you might say. Could you provide me with just a brief description of the 50-50 project?
If I may, Senator.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Mr McMurtry.
So we can get you more information, but the 50-50 project was designed to address an issue where we had, in some segments, a male-skewed audience and the need to provide content that was more relevant to women. And so, in line with other broadcasters and media organisations around the world, we decided to take a more programmatic approach to it and actually track and measure what our content was doing, how it was performing and the audiences it was reaching.
And what was the basis upon which you determined that the way to get more women watching the ABC was to put more women on the ABC in newsreader positions covering female relevant stories?
So we would need to come back to you with more detail, but
Right.
it was a multi-tiered approach. So it was around the sorts of stories we were commissioning, the sorts of angles we were developing. We've always been mindful to ensure that on air we we reflect the diverse nature of Australia, men, women, etc. But it wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It was a multi-tiered approach.
Did you consult with the viewing public in terms of that decision? And when I say consult, I mean more broadly than just looking at sheer viewer numbers.
It certainly wasn't just viewer numbers, but I would have to come back to you with a more thorough response.
Of course, I will provide the rest of my questions on notice, I think. But are there any plans to acquire public feedback on these changes in the future, similar to the audience survey that the BBC conducted on its 50-50 project?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, Senator. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Thank you, Mr McMurtry.
Senator Green?